That's a very, very, very good point, because I think a lot of what we see men act out, well, the position that they act out from is exactly what you mentioned. This thing of you have to maintain a certain level of power and control, and in this country, it's still largely financial and economical,
Yeah,
right? So if Uyindoda, that's not, and we all know the hashtags Indoda must, right?
exactly, exactly.
Right. So if you don't even have the entry criteria for some of that, then my guy, hlala phansi, because you're not even in the league to play with the big boys.
And another thing, you know, is the this conversation here, masculinity and what is demanded of a man. It's not just guys. So the very same women who say masculinity is toxic, they still demand you to be that very same kind of man that they say they don't want,
Got
right?
you.
But
Got you.
there are bits of that man that they don't want because it's harmful for them.
Right.
So even if when in your little space you are deciding what you are changing, masculinity for you means X, Y, and Z, the people that you want to have relationships are still going to tell you, no, 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 Baba. No, no, no. You must provide. And that also makes sense because the poorest people in South Africa are black women, right? Systemically, they're unemployed, they get paid less than everyone. So they will want someone to provide. I think if black women were paid more and had jobs in their businesses, the dynamic would be very different.
Got you.
It would be easier even for us to start changing what we think masculinity is because they wouldn't be so dependent on us. And that is the failure, one of the failures of the ANC government.
Right.
This thing of disempowering women and making them dependent on men.
Right.
So that thing is not a minor thing. And as men, sometimes, not sometimes, in fact, we really don't look at this gender pay gap thing because we think it's problem fast. And in fact, we think it works for us because it helps us be in control. But it doesn't work for us. It doesn't work for us. We need a society where women are paid what they deserve and women-owned businesses are supported so that we are equals. It will mean less strain on you as well. Not only financial strain, but also just demands on what manhood is.
Yeah. I think that's a very good point. And one of the things, when you mention this paradigm, is, again to quote, is you have to take responsibility for your own actions. It can't be that way. Now you piss people off, but it's never your fault. I never. Except that you have wronged someone and apologize, you'll actually feel better about yourself. You also shouldn't be so defensive when others point out the fault is with you. Being an asshole who doesn't know how to apologize doesn't make you cool. Ungachazwa amasimba. Now, a number of things. One, the phrase "ungachazwa amasimba" is something that you mention a lot in the book, and I think it's a very true statement to make, as explicit as some of you may feel it is, because it's really how we've been programmed as men. So I think you spoke to how we should try and actively, break that programming. But why do you think it is, based on this excerpt, it's so tough for us to admit that in certain instances we are the problem, right? And I'm going to use a silly example. It's one of those, but you made me cheat on you. It's never I'm sorry, I messed up, I'm the one that broke a commitment or promise to 1, 2, 3, 4. It's always someone else's fault. It seems, at least what you were saying earlier about black women being vocal, it seems like it's always us that has a difficult time acknowledging we're at fault.
I think I think it's just a human trait, really. I don't think it's the preserve of men. Okay. Definitely not a preserve of black men. I mean, women struggle to admit fault. They struggle to admit when they're wrong. And as I say in the book, with some of the things that I address here are not specific to Magenge. They are human traits, right? But just because it's a human trait doesn't mean you mustn't work on it. And that's the other thing that I speak about in the book. Let's not look at but no one lento. Cool. Let them continue. Tina, let's try and do better for ourselves because it benefits us. As I said in one of the passages that you read, in fact, this one, you will feel better about yourself. Whereas, even if, the other thing about apologizing is that sometimes you feel like you're being weak, right? By apologizing, feel like but what's interesting is that, what I've found personally is that it lightens you. You know, it's as if you're releasing that burden of having to keep a front. You would carrying on as if you don't care what you've hurt somebody.
Right.
You know, so apologize if they take it. Great. If they don't take it, that's up to them. And also, don't expect people to just accept your apology, because your apology might not fix what you broke.
Correct.
Right. So
Correct.
sometimes, you know, this person doesn't want to accept my apology. Apology doesn't help, you know. And in fact, we were talking about this, I think 2 days ago, what's key is action, right?
Yeah.
So you've apologized.
Yeah.
If you are able to, if it's somebody that you continue to engage with, how do you do better? How do you show them that you're truly remorseful, and how do you make up for what you did? Yeah. But abanye again can footsack.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you mention that, because I think one of the things is, you know, the greatest mark of an apology is change behavior, right? Because it's easy. It's relatively easy to just say sorry, right, and not reflect on why did I behave that way.
Exactly.
What are the actions that I need to course correct, and all of that kind of thing. And maybe coming back to the first question I asked about, you know, your therapy sessions and going to see a coach. Did you find for you that you found yourself closing a loop now? With actually, I recognize with a couple of years ago, or however long, with you know, I was actually at fault in this situation, or in this particular predicament that I'm in, because it was actually me and nobody else.
Look, I mean, you know, to even go and seek assistance is because I had started acknowledging, okay, X, Y, and Z, that was me, you know. But yeah, once I started seeing the coach, where it helped me is understand why I was making those decisions, you know. And I can't say now I am healed. It's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing process. I mean, you can't be programmed a certain way for 40 years and then think after a couple of sessions of talking to someone, no, I still do dumb shit, you know, where I still wake up and go, Melusi Tshabalala. You know, but I also think, I mean, we're at my age now, I turn 45 this year. There's also the benefit of age.
Right.
You know what I mean? So some of the things where I wouldn't even put them to the counseling, it's just so cool. And you know, there's certain things that I know better. Yeah. There's certain things that I'm also just not interested in.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And there are things that I wish I had been not interested in much earlier in my life, earlier than now. But yeah, you know, and as I say in the book also, you know, I might be 45 now, but let's say I die at 80. I've still got a lot of life to live. And so to start fixing now might help me enjoy the next 35 years and have less anxiety than I've had over the past 20 years. Yeah. You know, and the reality is, because I've changed certain things and I do certain things differently, I have way less anxiety in my life. Okay. And I think that's really, really key.
Okay. I'd like to change gears a bit and talk about something, a topic that you mentioned in your book, and you alluded to it. So part of the, let me say, the nucleus of why this book was written is you'd gone through a divorce. And one of the things I must admit and acknowledge is that it's the first time for me reading an account where a man who's gone through a divorce was, first of all, that open about it, and all the emotions that go with it, right? Shame, rejection, all of these kinds of things that are human. And I think on this particular topic, I'm very interested for us to understand, why is it that things like divorce, or experiences that typically might be a point of shame, or things that we would not look ourselves as men enough, we don't talk about these things as amachita, right? Because the reality is, if you look at the stats, guys are in and out of divorce court, right?
Sure.
But it's very rare for us to have real conversations about your divorce and what does that mean for you and all of that kind of stuff.
Okay, so there are two aspects. The reason I put it in the book, and it was very difficult to put it down on paper and really get to the details of what happened. It was, I'm saying, Magenge, we need to talk, right? So let me start. So it was me saying, I'm not here to bullshit you guys.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not. This book is not about winning.
Yeah.
As I said, it's easy. And I say in the book, I could have written about my life, how amazing it is, the career I've had. But you've got Vustembewayo for that.
Yeah.
Me now saying Ganyiwa.
Yeah.
And let me tell you,
Guti, yeah. How
real it is. Yeah. And also what I had experienced is, I'm a talker, generally. I'm very open about my life. So when I did find out about my wife's affair, I was open to my friends and the guys that I drink with at the pub. And what I found interesting is that other guys started opening up about their own challenges in their marriages, but also just other challenges that they're facing. And so I thought, so not only did it lighten my load, it allowed other people to come out of their shells and go, as in Amemvetu, I got retrenched, but I've been waking up every morning, washing, getting dressed, driving, and pretending good Spanish, so my wife doesn't know that I've been retrenched. So and so when you say why, it is the pressures. Again, firstly, human behavior. All of us want to seem as if we're doing great.
Got it together, yeah.
But as guys, particularly when it comes to issues of relationships with women, we put so much of who we are and how we define ourselves by the women in our lives. And so when that woman chooses somebody else or whatever happens, you feel like a failure. And Nama, I say in the book, there was a time where I wanted to say no, we decided together, amicably, because, it was embarrassing. But I was like, no, let me own this, and let me own it so that I can move on with my life. It's not my burden. I'm not the one who did this thing, so why should I carry a secret that has nothing to do with me? But I think, we live in a world that is full of shame, where we shame each other a lot. And I think we shame each other because we all generally feel bad about our own lives, so we take every opportunity to make ourselves feel better by hammering other people. And the reason we don't open up is because there's someone who's going to take that gap to make themselves feel better. So it's an external issue. You know what I mean? It's not just you. So when you do open up, you must know, Uguti, there will be shaming, there will be laughter, so you should be ready for that. And that's why we don't open up. Because we are harsh towards each other, and we're harsh towards each other because we're all broken, and we take every opportunity to make ourselves feel better at the expense of other people.
You touch on a couple of points, and maybe let me preface this with a story for those of you that have maybe read or not read Melusi's book. In the book, he also talks about a friend of his that would be very vocal about the challenges that he's going through. He would come to you guys would be hanging out, and he'd, hey guys, so. And the response from you guys as friends was to call him Umakhalanjalo, right? So it became this thing of, hey, this guy is gonna come and uzositshela about his problems and all of that kind of stuff. And tragically later, he then took his life.
Yeah, he did.
Right.
Yeah.
Now we're also in the construct or the reality of the fact that just over a month ago, a very loved artist, Ricky Rick, took his own life. He was obviously, as we know, going through depression and stuff. And it brought to the forefront this discussion about men and mental health and not opening up. And one of the things that came out was, no one cares about us men. Nobody cares what we're going through, etc., etc. And for me, I think it's the wrong question, because it's like, if we're not creating those spaces amongst ourselves, then who must? When we say nobody cares, we're actually saying we don't care. So my question is what is it that we need to be doing better as men to be able, one, to be there for each other, to be able to open up? Because if we're going to make statements like nobody cares and stuff, then guys, it's not up to women to create those safe spaces for us. It's about us being able to do that. So I just wanted your thoughts on that.
I think where I'm going to start with the Ricky Rick thing. I don't know the guy from above, so I know people who know him, but Angmazi. But what I do know is that people who are suffering with depression, talking is not necessarily going to help, because that is an illness that needs to be managed medically. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes even when they're managing it medically, umuntu wakhona still takes their own life.
Right.
So talking as I said even earlier in the book, has its limitations.
Right.
So it's not going to solve everything. And the reason I bring that up is people are refusing to understand the depression. This person didn't choose to take their lives. The illness forced them. That's why they didn't say they no longer say they committed suicide. They said they were killed by depression. So it's not like, when people say, but how can you leave your kids? He didn't make a choice.
Right.
He arrived at that situation and took his life. But now to come back to environment of talking. Yes, it's nonsense to say no one cares, right? We need to start caring first as I'm out. In fact, forget platforms. Even as individuals, if you are not making the effort to do better, to interrogate yourself, why do you expect other people? A lot of us, and I say in the book, just live. And you're expecting other people to come through for you. So you need to start with yourself, but also you need to start by being a listener to other people. Before you want other people to listen to you, start by listening to them. Right, so if you've woken up and you've realized, as in Zama out, we don't talk enough, we're not there for each other, then start by being there for your friends, right? So ask your friends, hey man, how are you doing? And start having meaningful conversations. At the beginning, it's difficult; people don't want to open up. But when they see that you're coming from a point of sincerity, people will start opening up. But I don't think it should be necessarily you burdening people with your problems. Right? Deal with your problems and then start opening up. And when you start opening up, other people will start opening up. Start listening and interrogating your friends. And not interrogate, that's a bad word because also but just showing your friends and your colleagues or whomever is in your space, what I'm here. If it's and from a point of sincerity.
Okay.